My name is Ellie, I'm 24, but people often say I look 18. I come from a small American town called Deep Creek, Michigan, where the main events are the Harvest Festival and the arrival of the food truck. I currently live and study in Chicago, training to be a pharmacist and working part-time in a drugstore. But my whole childhood was spent on summer vacation at my grandmother's farm, where I left my diary under the pillow and ran barefoot through the dew. It didn't start in Chicago, or in a bar, or on a date with a Tinder guy. It all began back in Deep Creek when I went there for the summer after finals, exhausted from the city, the traffic, the L trains, and people who had forgotten how to look you in the eye. I craved silence, strawberries from the garden, sleeping through my grandmother's snoring, and listening to the morning talk about the storms and the harvest. And he was there. Richard. He's around 40. He's been working on my grandmother's farm for about 20 years, ever since my grandpa passed away. Tall, strong, hands calloused, always in a faded shirt, smelling of wood and sun. When I was little, he carried me on his shoulders and built me a tire swing. Now he just looked at me. And I felt hot even in the shade. I arrived at the farm wearing a tank top and bike shorts. It was scorching hot. Grandma yelled from the porch, "Richard, help Ellie bring in her bag." He came out of the shed, squinted in the sun, and said, "You've grown up, Ellie. You're a real lady now." I smiled. "You haven't changed at all. Still just as strong." He smirked. And something inside me fluttered. The first evening, we had dinner on the porch. I was wearing a light dress, no bra. The heat was awful. I sat with my legs crossed. I knew he was watching, and I wanted him to watch. We hardly spoke. Just glances. Just the heat, and not just from the air. The next day, I woke up early and went outside. He was already there, shirtless, watering the cucumbers with a can. His back glistened with sweat. I unconsciously bit my lip. "Morning," he said without turning around. "Morning," I replied. "You're up early. That's when you have to do it, before the sun burns everything up." I stood and watched, and then I walked past him slowly, deliberately, letting the wind catch the edge of my robe. I knew he would notice, and he did. That day, I spent the whole evening walking around the yard, first for dill, then for berries, or just wandering, pretending not to know what to do. He was nearby but didn't come closer. Only sometimes did our eyes meet. There was something in them that made my head spin. In the evening, I sat on a bench by the shed. It was sunset. I was wearing an old sweatshirt, no shorts, just panties under the long hem. He sat down next to me. We were silent for 5 minutes. Then he spoke, "You grew up." And I'm still thinking, you're still a girl like back then, but you're not a girl anymore. I turned to him. I haven't been a girl for a long time, and you know it. He didn't answer, but his hand suddenly appeared next to mine. Too close. I felt goosebumps run down my legs. I stood up. "I'm going to wash my face, it's too hot," I said and held his gaze. He understood. And I went into the house, leaving the door unlocked. On the third day at the farm, the heat was so intense it felt like the sun was intentionally melting the boundaries between thoughts and desires. Grandma went to the farmer's market in the next town, and it was just him and me in the yard. The house, the garden, the dusty road, and him. I put on the thinnest, almost transparent sundress, again without underwear. I told myself it was because of the heat, but I knew that wasn't the only reason. "Richard!" I called out, looking outside. "The water isn't coming out of the tap well. Maybe the well is dry." He came out of the shed, leaned on the doorframe, and his gaze slid over my shoulders, collarbones, and knees. "I'll check. Want to come with me?" The well was at the other end of the garden, past the raspberry bushes. I walked beside him, barefoot, feeling the grass under my feet. He carried a bucket and a long rope. We hardly spoke, as if any word might slip out and confess too much. The tension between us was humming like a wire. At the well, I sat on a stone. My sundress lifted, exposing my thighs. Richard glanced, quickly looked away. "Are you hot, Ellie?" His voice was hoarse. "Very." "Are you?" He didn't answer, just threw the bucket down. A deep splash. The water there was cool, clear, tempting. I stood up, stepped closer, took the bucket from his hands, scooped up water, and splashed it onto my chest. The fabric clung to my skin, and I instantly regretted it and was simultaneously thrilled. He watched silently. "Are you crazy? You'll catch a cold." "Better the heat from the water than what's in my head," I answered softly, not breaking eye contact. And then he came closer. His fingers caught the edge of my sundress, as if he wanted to wipe off a drop, but they lingered. I didn't pull away, just took a deep breath. "You don't know what you're doing," he whispered. "I know. I just want you to want it too." He touched me, not my body, but my hair. Gently, almost innocently. Then he slowly traced a hand along my cheek, my shoulder. His palm burned my skin, as if all the farm's summer heat had soaked into him. "If we start this, there's no turning back, Ellie." "I don't want to go back. I've decided everything." Then he took that step, closing the distance to zero. His lips met mine, insistent, hungry, yet restrained. His fingers only touched my collarbones, but it was enough for me to ignite from the inside. We stood by the well, hidden from sight but completely open to each other. My body seemed to remember him carrying me as a child, and now it wanted him to do it like a man. He pulled back, looked into my eyes. "Leave before it's too late." "It's already too late." "I won't leave." "Then hold on." And I held on to him, to the moment, to his breath. He ran a hand down my back, and I pressed closer to him, feeling something primal pulsating between us. But he wouldn't let it go further. "Not here. It's too risky." "Where, then?" I whispered, uncrossing my legs slightly, as if inviting him. He clenched his jaw. "In the shed. In an hour. If you still want to, wait for me. But I'll only come if you want it yourself." I nodded. "I came earlier." "Of course, I did. How could I not?" The shed was dimly lit, smelling of hay, resin, old tools, and something else, something anxious, as if the air itself knew something forbidden was about to happen. I stood leaning against a wooden beam, wearing a button-down shirt dress, thin, almost airy. Nothing underneath. Not because of the heat. I heard the garden gate creak, and his slow footsteps approach. He entered, closed the door behind him, and didn't immediately come closer. He was silent. He watched for a long time. "Did you know I would come?" "Of course. I wanted it." He stepped closer but didn't rush to touch me. "This isn't just a game, Ellie. You understand that." I nodded, trembling inside. "No game. I'm an adult. I know what I want." And only then did he touch me. First my face, like before, then my neck, then my shoulders, carefully unbuttoning the dress, one by one. My heart pounded in my throat, my breath tore out. When the fabric slipped off my shoulders and fell to the floor, he ran a finger along my collarbone and whispered, "Looking at you, I could lose my mind." He lowered me onto the rough hay. It was scratchy, but it was almost pleasant, too alive. His hands squeezed my waist. Then he leaned down and whispered in my ear, "Can you be quiet?" I laughed hoarsely. "What if I can't?" He smirked and pressed his lips to my neck, then moved lower, to where my body was already burning without his touch. He went slowly, restrained, like a man who had finally received permission to touch the forbidden. His hands were unhurried. He knew how and where, as if everything in me had belonged to him for a long time. When his fingers found my most sensitive spot, I arched my back, gripping the hay. SHSHSH. "Quiet, Ellie. Do you hear how loud you're breathing?" I only gasped in response. He continued until he brought me to a tremble. I closed my eyes, but he watched. Just watched. You are real, he said. So alive, so. He didn't finish the sentence. We merged into a kiss, deep, messy, tasting of summer and prohibition. His body covered mine. He was firm, warm, heavy, like a man who works with his hands, not in an office. Every movement he made forced me to moan internally, even if my lips were silent. It wasn't beautiful like in the movies. It was raw. He held me tightly, as if afraid I would disappear. I dug my nails into his back, capturing every motion. I've been losing you, he whispered. For so many years you were near and yet so far away. And now you are mine. Right now, yes. Forever? I don't know, I answered honestly, looking into his eyes. He squeezed me tighter, as if trying to press me into himself. Let it be just for now, then. When it was over, we just lay there. The shed ceiling seemed higher than before. He stroked my hair, and I stroked his chest, studying his body as if for the first time. I never thought I'd touch you like this, he said. And I never thought I'd want a man twice my age who smells not of cologne, but of machine oil. I smell of life, he chuckled. Exactly. He smelled of real life. Then I dressed and left. Without saying goodbye. We didn't know what to do now. Was it a mistake, love, a moment of weakness? I walked along the path back to the house, barefoot, grass between my toes, and fire inside. And I knew this was only the beginning. After that night in the shed, everything changed. Even the air between us became thicker, as if electricity had settled like dust on every board in the house. We no longer hid our eyes. We sought each other in every movement, as if the world around us had become secondary. But reality is a stubborn thing. Grandma returned and began sending Richard more often to other fields, and me to help in the garden, far from the shed and my sundresses. But the more we were separated, the stronger the fire burned inside. We found a new way, short meetings under the awning behind the shed, where the rakes, buckets, and an old bench were stored. It smelled of dry dust and abandoned secrets there. I brought him tea. He pretended to fix something. But as soon as Grandma's steps faded into the distance, his hands would cup my waist, and my lips would find his neck. He whispered, I can't look at you when you're in that dress. And I wear it deliberately, so you suffer. And he suffered. It was clear. He held back. His fingers trembled when they touched my ankle. One day, he couldn't stand it. I sat on the bench, and he knelt before me. Can I just look? He whispered. Look, if you can handle it. I lifted the edge of my skirt. He held his breath, watching as if seeing an icon. With reverence, greedily. His fingers traced the inside of my thigh. Light touches that made my toes curl. He didn't go further, just stood up, ran his palm over my hair, and said, You are my weakness. And you are my addiction. In the evening, we pretended to be normal. We sat silently at dinner, looking at our plates, but our feet found each other under the table. He touched my ankle, and I squeezed his knee. These secret games drove me crazier than anything that happened in the shed. And then Sunday arrived. Grandma went to church, Mom to the neighbors. The house was empty. I left him a note under the awning. 10 minutes. Blue dress. Nothing underneath. Period. He came in 8. I was already standing there, leaning against the post. He walked slowly, watching me restrainedly, as if trying to calm his frantic heart. Are you deliberately driving me crazy, Ellie? And are you deliberately pretending you don't like it? He came right up to me, ran a hand along my sides, stopping at my hips. I felt everything inside me already calling for him. Say if you change your mind, he whispered. Too late, Richard. I can't live without this now, without you. He sat me down on the old bench, sat next to me, took my legs onto his lap, kissed my ankle, then higher. His lips glided as if tracing a route on my body. I tilted my head back, resting my skull against the wood, and held back my voice. The tension became flesh, but suddenly we heard a sound. A car right by the gate. Damn it! He jumped up. Someone's here. I quickly fixed my dress. He grabbed the nearest bucket. We pretended I was helping him wash his tools. It was Aunt Gail with a jar of cherry jam. She didn't notice a thing, but I nearly died of fright. After she left, he whispered to me, "We're playing with fire. But we haven't been burned yet." I smiled, but fear crept into my chest. Too close, too obvious. Everything we had was becoming noticeable. And one day, someone was bound to see. The morning was unsettling. The sun seemed reluctant to rise. The roosters were silent. The house smelled of thyme and condensed milk, but inside, I felt crumpled, like a sheet after a sleepless night. Richard didn't appear morning or day. I walked through the yard, looked into the workshop. Empty. Grandma said he'd gone to the mowing field across the creek, but I knew he was avoiding me. On the third day, I couldn't bear it and wrote to him, "If you decided to end it, say so, but don't be silent. Silence is the worst. Period." The answer only came in the evening. "Meet me at the old mill at 9 o'clock. Last time." The old mill wasn't far, overgrown, creaky. I arrived early. I stood leaning against the stone wall in a long skirt and a knitted top. Hair down. I was trembling, but not from the cold. He appeared, quietly as always. He sat down next to me. "I don't want to lose you, Ellie. But if we continue, this will explode. People sense everything. I sense it too. But not fear, just that I can't live without you. I dreamed you were leaving. I stay here with the roosters and the scythe, and you're out there, where the light and life are." I took his hand. "Maybe I will leave, maybe you will stay. But what's between us, that's forever. Even if we forget, even if we never meet again." He leaned in, touched my forehead with his lips. "If I were 25, I would still choose you, because you are real." We kissed, not like in the shed. Differently. Slowly. With pain. As a goodbye. His hands were softer, his lips warmer, and tears welled up in my throat, but I wouldn't let them out. When we pulled apart, I knew he wouldn't come back, and I wouldn't write again. I went back home. In the morning, Grandma said Richard had left for Cleveland to see his sister. And Mom said it was for the best. But I was silent. And only at night, lying in bed, did I feel a dried piece of straw in the hem of my dress, the very one from the shed where it all began. 2 weeks passed. I returned to Chicago. Back to cash receipts at the drugstore. Boring faces on the L train. Not a single message from him on my phone. And then one day, I'm walking down the street. An ordinary day. It's drizzling. A man is standing at the corner store. He looks very familiar. He turns around, and our eyes meet. But that's another story.